Rod doing Rod, y'all. What is good? It's been a while. I'm in my son's room. As you can see, stuff like this, his vision board and everything like that. I didn't feel like doing the whole setup that I normally do. I just really needed to get this stuff out. One, because the kids are coming home soon, and I just decided to hop on. And two, I got to get this stuff out. I realize when I'm not at my mental best, it's one of the reasons is because I have too many thoughts just contained inside and I'm not getting it out. So as a creator, those things have to come out, and I don't always do a good job of it. It can be anything. It could be I could do it in music form. I can do it in. I got a lot of my creativity out through teaching. It could just be posts and new things that I'm doing. I have been getting my creativity out somewhat. Like you might not see a lot of podcasts, but on my Instagram, I usually have a little project I'm working on. Before, it was like this daily content series. It was like, what was it? I don't know, something Monday. It was like Wellness Wednesday, and then it was like Teaching Tuesday and Fighting Friday, where I talk about combat sports or whatever like that. But I do a post like every day. So I did that for some weeks, and then I changed to making like these little AI comics of stories and rants that I've told on Facebook like many years over the years. I've been on Facebook for 20 years, and I would do all these rants and stuff like that and tell stories. It'd be teaching, parenting, traveling, whatever. So I always wanted to change those into comics. And now that we have this AI thing, I don't love the AI art. Okay, I really don't. And I support real artists. I know it doesn't seem like I do when I post that stuff, but the thing is, I have no body to collaborate with, and not in the time frame, and plus it's really a really simple thing I'm just throwing up there, and I would rather draw it myself. I have a little bit of art skills, but not enough really to bring that to life. And these are just these little rants and everything like that. So it's nothing serious. If I'm gonna go deeper with it, then I'd collaborate with a real artist. But for now, yeah, I'm just using AI just to bring these rants to life, So you can see that on my Instagram, Rod Doing Rod, also. But besides that, I have to talk, and that comes in rapping form, which I have finished an album with my group, The Dugout, and hopefully that'll be released soon. But even that is usually like a verse, and it's usually like you're compromising on a group concept, and the music we created is dope, but it's not the same as if you're doing your solo thing. So, this is kind of my solo thing for now. Even though I have worked on solo music, I actually created quite a bit before the war in Greece. And speaking of war, I am in my second year of sabbatical, my second and last year. And because next fall, I'm certainly going to be someone's counselor in someone's school. And, when tragedies happen, new tragedies happen in your life, because sometimes you're used to the same kinds of tragedies, and those things may reoccur with new people in new places. And sometimes you experience tragedies that you never have, like missiles overhead and stuff like that, and interceptors. So when that happens, it expands your idea of what could happen. You say to yourself, no matter what, I accept that I don't know what can happen, and when it does, I'm going to be as ready as possible, and I'm going to be open to not only the positive things that the universe has for me, but also the crises that can happen and what you have to do to get through these crises. So something like a war breaking out can happen, and did. And a positive is that, and I don't want to condescend when I say a positive, because some people may be like, well, I lived through war and I lived through it a lot worse than you have, so there is no positive. And I completely understand that. What I want to say is a way to reframe some of what I went through personally, is that it expanded my mind as to what can be a crisis, because you never know. It was, they say it wasn't in my bingo card that I'd have to flee to Greece, but I shouldn't do that. It's me feeling remorse about the fact that I experienced being a refugee in a very comfortable way compared to a lot of people, but my experience is my experience. And So I just lost my train of thought really quick. Yeah, so it expands my idea of what can happen. And when people say, and me, I'm people, say anything can happen, we do mean anything, but certain things you just can't think of until it happens. And when you come out on the other side of that, if you do, inshallah, then you will. It expands your capability also for the things that can happen. Maybe it changes your perspective also, and you come back ready to what I say get busy. That means just really attack life. You come back ready to get busy, and with a mind that now is much more is broadened as to what could happen and what you have to do to survive and thrive. And it may change your perspective on how you approach the things that you felt were very challenging. Now they may not seem as challenging. So in the first year, my sabbatical didn't really hit like I thought it would, like I wanted and needed it to. It took a while to get into and understand what I needed to do and my mindset and stuff. And it was just totally different than what I thought, and much, much, much more challenging. And so this year, I'm approaching it knowing that I'm blessed, of course, to be in this position, but also that with all of those things that can happen, what I experienced before, during, and after the war, I'm very resilient, and anything else can happen and probably will. Things just as tragic to me or to others, and you have to be ready, and you have to. When I say ready, it's not like you can't anticipate what happens, but you try to build yourself up every day to be a person who's flexible and resilient and open-minded and can handle what comes your way. So yeah, sabbatical year 2. Other thoughts: Florida. So I went to Florida for the winter break. I went on a cruise, and we did like the Disneyland stuff. And I have to say, I said those 3 things because this is the thing about not knowing what life is going to give you. Those are 3 things that I said I wanted nothing to do with ever. A cruise, although over the last few years I was like, I want to try one and just see how it is and see if I really am going to hate it like I think I am. Disney, I was like, what does Disney have for me? I don't want to do anything at Disney. And Florida, I was like, well, I've seen enough of Florida online and enough of other places in America, living there for my whole life before coming here. I shouldn't say my whole life anymore. I've been in Qatar almost, over 14 years. But anyway, no, it'll be 14 years in 2 weeks. But here nor there, cruises, Disney, and Florida are 3 things I wanted no parts of. So to rank those experiences, first of all, they all were great. To rank them, the best experience was Florida. The part I was in Kissimmee, and Miami a little bit. Second, I'd say between the cruise and Disney, I'd say the cruise and then Disney. But all of them were fine. I experienced them as a dad and husband, and of course they'd be different if I was by myself, but knowing that they were good with my family does the trick. And I know there are different variables, and there are things that made it good and made the not good things not good that won't always exist. All right, so let me start with Florida. I mean, yes, it was as pro-Trump as they say. All of those things were there. All of those things you could see. It was very obvious. But I tell you, the fact that there's so many Latinos, as a New Yorker, and with my family having a lot of Latinos in it, made me feel very comfortable. There's a dope Puerto Rican restaurant across from where we were staying. I'm all about all of that. My Latinos, and it's funny because in New York, we just call them Spanish people. My Spanish friends, we call them Spanish. Remember in old school, they called the dudes Spanish? Like, that's how we are in New York. We we call them Spanish dudes, but, they start calling Latinos, and I remember Hispanics, which I never really Latinx, something like that. I'm not sure what the proper term is, but if I call you Spanish, is that's some New York shit. And really, in New York, Spanish people means Dominicans and Puerto Ricans. And then you find out that the whole rest of the country, they mean Mexicans, but except in Florida when they mean, I don't know, Cubans and all types of other shit. But anyway, so they had my Spanish people, and they had, even though a lot of them, of course, are Trump supporters and stuff. Vote for Trump. Remember that? Did you see that one? Anyway, that little video from a little while ago. They're probably deported, but also the Southern hospitality. I don't know. I've always experienced that in the South, but I didn't think it would extend to Florida. But it did extend to Florida, and there was just a lot of hospitality. It was also very diverse. I loved how the people carried themselves, and in Miami and in Kissimmee, and it was just dope. The place we stayed in this like gated community Airbnb. There, it was really, really nice, had everything, and there was, no complaints, not a single complaint. Florida was dope, except the weather. The weather was horrendous, and Disney was nice. It was nice. It wasn't amazing. I have no reason to really want to go back there, but it was fun. It's a good time to spend, and we went to a few parks. Actually, I would go back there. We went to a few parks, but the weather was so bad, and the lines get long, which you might know, and with that bad weather and those long lines, that's not the time of year to go. Go in December, right? But we did go. We got to experience it, and I didn't know really what Disney was. I thought I did. I thought it was one place, sort of. Maybe a couple of little things here and there. I didn't realize it was like 4, 5, 6 kingdoms, and then they have like that. Was it Disney? What is it called? Disney Springs also, and all that stuff. I didn't know it was like that. But I'd attack it differently. But it was still cool to experience and see just how it functions and what's really there. And the cruise, you can't feel it. So the fact that I get motion sickness didn't mean much. I was on a Carnival cruise, so depending on how you feel about that type of people on there, it has its ups and downs. Let's just say that. But it was fine. You have to get used to the fact there's so many people there. I'd probably go to a cruise that have much less people there, like 1,000 less people. And I'm not so into the stops there, but they were still nice, and we had a lot of fun. And all the food that's available, all the entertainment is pretty cool. I thought that shit was cool, all the Family Feud and the shows and everything. And then there are many places you can escape to. Many places, even though there's so many people, you could get private spaces outside of your room. A lot of good food, a lot of pool, jacuzzis, everything like that. It's cool. I would like to experience it without the kids, but even with the kids, it was really dope. I was happy that my kids got to kind of experience something else. Usually we're traveling to different countries and stuff like that, and it was pretty cool for them to be Americans for a little while. So it was all good. Florida, the cruise, Disney, it was good. What else? What's that? Shohei Ohtani, or is it Shohei Ohtani? I think it's Shohei. People have love-hate for this guy. I get it. Anytime somebody's that great, they're going to be polarizing these days, and that's all good. I'm a fan, but I was looking at this thing, and they were raising the question, he will have completed 10 years of Major League service, I think, after this season. So they said, is he a Hall of Famer? And I'm like, this is engaged bait, right? This is, which I get. So I took the bait. And I'm like, of course, and a lot of people were like, of course he is. It's just, how unanimous will he be? And how unanimous is weird, right? That's kind of oxymoron, because unanimous is just unanimous. But it was just like, how unanimous will he be? And people were raising arguments from the gambling and DH and all this stuff as to why, and WAR being a WAR, being a stat that nerds have created and it shouldn't mean much, and creating all these arguments as to why he is not yet a Hall of Famer. But at least most of those people acknowledge that he will be. But they said at the end of this season he's not, and I'm like, this is ridiculous, dude. Of course, Otani's a Hall of Famer after these 10 years. You guys said Mike Trout was a Hall of Famer after 10 years, right? With all his war, however you want to say. I just don't want to call it war, even though it's WAR, wins above replacement. I feel like it needs to be war. It's just weird saying war. But anyway, even though I don't know if I ever heard anyone say the word. So he has, Mike Trout had all of that war, and he had 3 MVPs, and he was so much better than his peers. And after 10 seasons, you guys were ready to anoint him as a Hall of Famer. Got to do the same with Ohtani, or is there a reason why not? So the guy's 4. He has 4 MVPs. He's going to have 5 after 10 seasons. Maybe. PCA might get it. I don't know. But he may have 5. Even if you stop now, he's going to have over 300 home runs. Not a bad counting stat. The other stuff, the hits, the runs, everything like that, okay. The batting average is very decent for these days. He's obviously a great base runner. He's not going to give... I feel like you can cancel out the fielding with the pitching. Pitching is kind of like fielding constantly, but then people are like, oh, he's pitching like 3.5 innings or whatever and stuff like that. And so anyway, I mean, if the resume is going to show 300 home runs, the 50 wins, a 3.05 ERA, and 5 MVPs after 10 years, I don't care about anything else. You can make an argument for why he shouldn't be, or the writers shouldn't have unanimously elected him and stuff like that. But the record will state that. It would look idiotic if in 20 years, 30 years, baseball fans are looking back and seeing how dominant this guy is and seeing all the black ink and the accolades, and then he's not in the Hall of Fame. It's stupid. Don't be stupid. So, that. WWE, they have this feud with CM Punk and Kevin Owens. CM Punk used to be one of my favorite wrestlers, but I don't know. It just doesn't hit like he used to. He was always smarmy, but now he's smarmy in in an establishment sense. He was kind of smarmy in an anti-establishment sense. And I know it's like, oh, you don't like the Rebels once they succeed and everything like that. But I don't know. The more you learn about him, the more he's just not as cool. And the fact that he went at Kevin Owens for being fat, I just thought, I don't know, sometimes he reached his low-hanging fruit, and I'm just like, if you're this god on the mic, there's certain things that you shouldn't do. And I just feel like he's always been kind of overrated on the mic and the ring, but I just thought he had an aura that was untouchable. That's why he's always been one of my favorite, but he's losing that, one of my favorites. And I've always felt he was a little sloppy in the ring, but he's a great storyteller. And on the mic, I don't know, he relied on jabs and phrases that weren't the best. I thought John Cena's were on a different level, but the aura in which he delivered them made them hit more than what most other people can do, and that is perfectly fine. The Rock said a lot of corny shit, but he had the best aura probably ever. So so now it was going to be interesting to see him match with Kevin Owens, because both of them are smart in a similar way, it seems. And Kevin Owens, you can just tell, like, Punk knew he was dealing with someone he couldn't get away with the bullshit on, with, and knowing that they don't like each other, and the beef stemming from things like Punk years ago yelling at him at the end of a confrontation about Punk saying he shouldn't wear a t-shirt or something like that when he wrestles or whatever. Anyway, to see Owens come back, and he's of course still the fat guy, but now he's an older fat guy, and seeing Punk jacked off of TRT and all of that stuff, it's just like, it makes you want to root for Kevin Owens more. And KO comes and delivers scathing retorts to CM Punk, and you can tell he just looks like he's always used to being the guy on the other side of that. And KO was just like, take that, And even though KO did, he cursed at the end, which I think is just too easy. I thought if in any context, this was a good context to use it. And, there's still stuff that he still has in the chamber. Obviously, you can tell, because there's certain things he can still talk about. AJ, the dog, the bracelet, things that you can talk about better than Roman did. And I felt like Roman did a great job, by the way. And the UFC, I think, those topics in Kevin Owens' hands will be a lot more lethal than they were in anyone else's hands. So I'm very much looking forward to that. And right now, KO is up on him, even though KO is not going to win the title at the end, which is going to suck. What else? Cody's saying he doesn't have to play good guy anymore. That's pretty cool. I know people want him to turn heel. They want him to get Homelander. And, he doesn't have to be Homelander. He doesn't have to even be full heel. These days, it's cool where some people sit, like Roman and Trick. And right now, it's really the era of the tween. I know you can put them on one side depending on who they're fighting, but this is as tween as it's ever been, and I think Cody can occupy a really good tween space. But as far as the white bread babyface, he definitely needs to step off of that. I hope the New Day land well. That video they did was pretty cool. If there was has there ever been a tag team with their accolades who were treated as unceremoniously as they were? They will land well wherever they go. They're a true draw. I think they're still a draw. I would love to see Xavier. I would love to see like Kofi put whatever behind Xavier, Austin, and really get him to do something amazing. If they go to another company, that would be super cool. What else, man? They shitted on Chelsea Green when they had her take the pin. That was it was a good thing it was a tag team pin, but come on, you didn't have to do that so quickly. If you watch Unreal, you can kind of saw that coming. WWE is just so petty and whack in that way. You know what they don't have right now? They don't have, besides Obafemi and Trick, they don't have anyone coming up with the aura. Braun Breaker doesn't have it. He has it for a certain trope, a certain wrestling trope. He's fast and powerful and mean and stuff like that. And as far as that goes, hey, push him to the main event, definitely. But they know and they get it. What Oba has and what Trick has is something they know they need it more of. That's why they're pushing him like that. But they need, who else has it, man? Maybe Chelsea has a little bit of it. I mean, even people are like they don't have that, and they desperately need that. They gotta find people who, and I'm not even talking crossover. They don't have to be crossover. They just gotta have that aura, that MJF, that who else? That I mean, everybody's old, Everybody's old. It's Cody and it's Roman and it's Randy and it's Seth and all of that. Also, LA Knight doesn't deserve the push that you guys want him to have, but he's getting better. I think that's, for someone like him, that's really the key. Like, he's not one of those guys, but you keep pushing him down, he might find something a little extra instead of just being more and more of himself and feeling like, I know I deserve it, so I should just keep being what I am and then complain if I don't. I think he's finding a little something extra. You can see in his promos, you can see in, when he's having these exchanges on the mic. And I think for some people, that's where it's at. Those people who like keep getting pushed down and thought they were good enough. And they're like, well, if I'm not good enough, then I could just wild out. And I think he's a second away from doing that. And it'd be cool if they put a little wrinkle in his character besides just like going heel or something like that. It would be cool if he gets like I don't want him to get the Money in the Bank. I'd rather go to Trick. I think Trick would be a menace with the Money in the Bank. But if LA Knight got the Money in the Bank and changed something about his character, I think that could be super interesting. I'd also love Solo to get the Money in the Bank. Solo, I think, is the best thing going in wrestling right now. And it would be interesting? Jimmy is dope. I wish he would work on his physique a little bit. I think that would help. I mean, I think his physique is just fine, but I think that, I mean, personally, but as far as career, it always gives you a bump, and he's a guy with a decent size, pause, and I think that if he worked on that, um, it might help a lot. But what do I know, right? He could have injury. Also, Samoans carry a lot of fat in the torso and stuff like that. So I don't know, but I think first of all, he's the better talker and worker in the ring. Even though Jay is good, I don't feel about him how much of the internet does, but I do think Jimmy's superior in those ways, and I think that could create a real interesting wrinkle as far as Jay, who's never going to get back to the title, and then what it could do as far as moving the bloodline story along. So anyway, I think I just heard my kids. Yep, I did. It's Rod doing Rod. I'll talk to y'all later. Peace.